Good afternoon. This is Dr. Matthew Dunn, host of The Future of Email, our first episode for 2023. And I'm delighted to have Josh Jacobson and Marcel Becker of Yahoo Mail as guests. Gents, welcome. So delighted to have you.
Thank you so much, Matthew. Great to be here.
Yeah, thank you, Matt.
Sitting with the, is that the Golden Gate behind you?
Yeah, we're in San Francisco. That, of course, is a photo, but it's not too far away.
Right. So we were chatting just briefly beforehand. I mean, you guys are an incredibly influential piece of taking Yahoo into the future. And I was thinking, for some reason, somewhere there's someone trying to get their airplane ticket or something vital out of their Yahoo Mail, and you're responsible for that.
We're here to help.
Yeah.
That's the stuff of life, or what we call the business of life. And email typically is a place where people don't want to be spending a ton of time. They want to get in, get what they need, and get out. And so we've really been focused on helping consumers save time and save money.
Yeah, and you used that phrase, the business of life, when you launched, I think it was a new version in October?
Yeah, that's right. So celebrating the 25th anniversary of Yahoo Mail. That's right. So some of us have accounts from way back. To celebrate, just reimagine and redesign the Yahoo Mail application. And one of the great things about being at Yahoo is it's consumer focused. So we have a lot of latitude to focus on what people are doing every day in their lives, as opposed to, say, in an enterprise or an intense work environment. But what is that stuff of life, and how can we help? That's what we've really been exploring.
I love that angle of attack, because it just seems so true to what we all do. Marcel, you were talking about some of this. I think I read an interview with you in Dot Magazine a couple of years ago, and it seemed like you were already headed this way. Like, look, email is not necessarily what we use to say hi in the morning, but it's still where all of our life details and stuff come together. Yeah.
Yeah, precisely. I mean, this is a trend which we have seen for a while across consumer email specifically, as Josh said, right? And we've really looked at how are actually real people using email like every day, right? Not just us in the enterprise world where we know you have to check boxes and basically rush to these squares on our calendar, but how do you actually use it as a real person?
Yeah.
And, some of this really culminated, as Josh said, in the release of the recent Yahoo Mail update we released last year.
Yeah.
Really focus on these particular use cases. You mentioned a flight ticket, right? I mean, I literally stood behind somebody just recently again, where somebody frantically was browsing and scrolling through the inbox and trying to find the ticket, and they couldn't. They had to basically step aside. And these are the things we really want to solve with Yahoo Mail, and really focus on creating the best experience for these consumers and helping them really find the things they need when they need them, and really connect the brands and organizations delivering that to our users.
I'd like to delve into some of the design process a bit, but the better upfront question is, tell me about the reaction from customers since you launched the new version.
Yeah, well, thanks for the layup there, because we've enjoyed really high app ratings since early 2016. We've maintained a 4.5 star or above, and the ratings went up, which for any redesign of email, usually you would expect a bit of a dip, just because people have trouble reacting to change.
Yeah.
But net, the improvements and the focus on that consumer experience really paid off. So the ratings have been higher than ever, upwards of 4.7, 4.8. Some of the dailies went to 4.9 and 5.0. And the users are engaging and getting more out of mail. So that's been fantastic. In fact, one of the bright spots you mentioned, waiting in line, but when you combine things like people out on the go and needing information quickly, there's another side of that, which is if they're at home, what if something's arriving at their house, like a package?
Yeah.
And so one of the things we found with half of all the emails opened in Yahoo Mail being shopping related, you can imagine there's a ton of packages that are coming through and receipts that are coming through. And so just connecting people to, when is my package going to be here? What are the near real time updates? And that drove a ton of customer satisfaction. So that's the kind of thing we'll be doing more going forward, is looking at helping users with the stuff of life, the business of life, that's represented in email, but then helping them kind of complete the task even further.
And not be as dependent on summing back through the stack,
Right.
right? You know,
Exactly.
I know the shipping thing is in there somewhere. I know the plane ticket is in there somewhere.
Right. Right. Right.
And I'm going to spend, 2, 2, 3, 5 minutes digging for it, even though I looked at it yesterday.
Exactly. And
Mm,
I
gotcha.
know a lot of your audience are email senders and marketeers.
Yeah.
And when you think about the value of email, yes, of course, there's the awareness of, new deals, new opportunities for the user. There's also just the practical application of having a user have an awesome experience with your brand. And part of that is having them connect to that information as quickly and effortlessly as possible.
Yeah.
So the next time they do an order, they want to do that again. And so one of the things that Marcel's been, working closely with senders on is things like sending the right schema. So when there is a package on the way, we can help connect a user to that as soon as possible.
Nice. Nice. Yeah. And start to leverage some of the more structured things that you can do in email. Not without work, obviously, but can do. It's got to take a bit of evangelism on your part, Marcel.
It does. I mean, in the email industry in general, right? We really enjoy working with the sending community to create that better experience. But at the same time, as you know as well, right, there has to be an ROI for the brands and the ESPs as well. And that's really where we're really creating that experience and showing these brands and senders that when a user is actually interacting with that, be it through schema or our proprietary technologies, it is a tremendous lift in engagement. And it helps everybody, right? The user, they find what they need when they need it.
Yeah.
And the brands, depending on what the email you're sending, right? You just have an increase in conversions, engagements. Everybody is happy at the end of the day. And that's really what we want to achieve. And yes, I mean, that's why we did the Sender Summit. I think we talked about this before, this little session where we got together with, the big senders really responsible for 90% of the emails in our system. And we just talk through some of these tools and features we can deliver. And schema specifically, like, is one of them.
Yeah.
Google calls it annotations, but it's all the same thing. Really
Yes.
want to elevate
Yeah.
the platform to help everybody, but specifically our mutual customers.
I think the potential for that. I'm a bigger fan of schema than of AMP, and we can have some fun with that one in a bit. But I think the potential for just smarter structure to the information that's showing up in the inbox in the guise of a message
Mhm.
opens up a bunch of, why haven't we done this? Why didn't we do this a decade ago? Kind of potential, and it will
Totally.
take time, I think, to get people on board. Well, I'm curious your reaction to this. It has struck me as I've learned more about the email space now, because I was out of it for a bit. It, as a marketing channel, email is a bit a victim of its own profitability. Like companies that run email marketing programs, it tends to be a real tentpole for their marketing, and they can keep doing it the same way they've done it, even though the consumer's inbox looks different. The consumer's day looks different. The consumer's overload is definitely higher. Reactions?
Yeah, you're right about consumer overload. I mean, if there's one thing we can definitely bank on is there's just going to be more data coming into everyone's lives, even folks who have no interest in learning any technology whatsoever.
Yeah, no, yeah.
It's just flying into their life, and it's going to keep increasing. And so if you think about the viability of any communications platform, it's all about signal to noise. And what are the tools that, at the end of the day, as a platform that we can provide to senders and to consumers to make sure that that signal is high and the noise is low. And so when there are senders who are sending a ton of noise, we have tools on the consumer side to help find the right signal. But ultimately, the job is better for everyone. The experience is better for everyone if the senders are sending the best signal possible, and then our users are benefiting as a result.
Right. Right. Yeah. They're happier even if they don't know why they're happier, right?
Yeah.
They're spending less time on the frustrating, the repetitive. Um, find me someone with a perfectly organized inbox, and
Yeah.
and I'm sure there's gonna be a stick growing out of their head because they're a unicorn.
Yeah, that's definitely not a big thing anymore. People have pretty much given up on an organized inbox, and they've more focused on feeling organized and staying organized. And that's
Yeah.
having access to the right information when they need it.
Yeah. 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 And search as a mechanism for message management, it felt like a breakthrough. And now it's like,
Mhm.
oh, crikey, right? I need a major search engine just for my cotton picking inbox, and some of the kind of structured and surfacing things that you referenced, I would think would help make that job a whole lot easier.
Oh, 100%, because people are, throughout the day, they're in a different mode of activity or what they're trying to accomplish. You mentioned earlier, getting a access to flight information.
Yeah.
We call that the line anxiety moment. Well, we have a travel tab where who wants to type? I mean, even though phones have tried to make it as easy as possible to type something,
Sucks. Yeah.
at the end of the day, if you can just tap a couple times and get to that information, that's gonna be a huge win. And so we have something called the top of the inbox card, which will surface that travel information where hopefully you only have to tap once. But if it's not there, we have a travel category where you maybe tap once or twice, and it's there, and you get on with your life. And if we've done our job well, and the senders have done their jobs well, the user doesn't really even think about it. They just think, "Oh, that's where I go for my travel info, and I don't have
Yeah.
to think about anything else."
Yeah.
It's
And,
it's
and
so much it's so much better than searching, as I said, right? People don't know what to search for,
yeah.
right? I mean, we all have been there. Like you pull up the search bar and then you're like, oh wait, I only know who sent me that email. I don't know when.
Yeah.
What's the keyword, right? And
Yeah.
I said, like this, the age of search, this was probably like 10, 15 years ago, right? With email, we really need to move into the age of intent. And now with OpenAI and some of these other tools out
Oh,
there,
you went there. I was going to go there. Good.
that is, I mean, it's important, right? We need to stay ahead of the curve. And that's right at, on the money, right? We really want to help our users to make the most out of these emails and just, give them information they need. And they don't have to do anything. It needs to be magical.
Yeah. Yeah. And I'm sure you made some big strides in that direction with the new release. Was that engineered like, from ground up practically?
There's a couple aspects. One was it was redesigned from the ground up, and what we realized is a lot of the design work we had done that was foundational was worth maintaining. But there was another layer we could add, which I mentioned, the categories and the tabs. So we have filters at the top that you can easily tap, and that was added. That was brand new. And then there's a number of, Marcel mentioned intent. So you can imagine opening an inbox can be a very stressful moment, right? Like you
Sure.
mentioned, feeling organized. People, when we do user research and do interviews, and people are always apologizing for their inbox, like it's a messy room, or it's like,
Yes.
oh,
Yes.
inviting the queen to your living room, and it's not quite perfect yet.
Yeah.
Like, no, that's your inbox. And so, what we've looked at is, are there places where you have an intent, like shopping, where instead of feeling like you're managing data and every bit of data is stress inducing, why don't you just lean back and browse the data? Because now you're shopping and you're not there to like delete or update. You're there to see like what are the best deals, like what's popping, what's happening for me. And so all that information that in the past would be stressful, now it's empowering because you have a 40% off deal that maybe you didn't even know about, but
Right.
there it is right there in the shopping tab. And so as we look at intents, we're looking at more and more of these intents that people have in email, but just a regular list of messages might not be it for what we can serve for them.
What are the, I'm not going to articulate this very well, but what's the tool set for someone with a new client
Hmm.
try and craft management of their particular intents? I want to know about this, or I'd like to be able to get to that.
Yeah. So from a user standpoint, you're saying?
Yeah.
Yeah. So it sort of goes to this question of like, what is the point of view on what managing the business of life even means? Like, is there a best way to manage the business of life?
Yeah. Right.
And obviously it'll vary by person, by culture, by situation. I think roughly 60% of adults are parents. That's a whole other, level of complexity because now you're managing other people's lives, right? And so it's not just messages about what your day looks like, but it's like, oh, you forgot about this and that, the other thing. And so at a high level, we're looking at a couple of things. One is we know there's a lot of diversity out there in how people manage life, and email has a different role. But ultimately, there's a couple of things we're seeing consistent, which is there are lots of people who just wake up in the morning and they just don't feel confident that they even know what's happening that day. And so having tools, at least to start with in the inbox, to show what are the messages or the information that's most important to you. That's number one. So we mentioned some of the, top of inbox cards and filters just to help you stay on top of what's important. And the other is feeling like you're in control of all of that data that's coming at you. And so giving you tools so that you're in charge and you're in control, and not just like you're basically, getting crushed by what's thrown your way. And so as you look at where we are going as Yahoo, focused on that consumer experience, we want to give people tools to stay totally in control of their day and stay confident that, they know what they need to do. And they start first with what their intent is, and then look at the data and then react to things next.
Nice. Nice. I could see why the ratings have gone up with just because that's not why we had a lot of the UI tools we had in email, at least
Right.
historically. Right?
Yep.
I spent a fair amount of time in around enterprise email. And
Yeah.
I remember how flippant emotional people would get when you touched anything related to their email. And
Totally.
now that, as you said, the business of life goes into your inbox.
Right.
I've got to imagine the emotional load is even higher.
Right. Yeah. I'd say the difference we're seeing with enterprise versus consumer, and I used to work at a company that was very enterprise focused, and it's like two sides of the coin. On an enterprise side, all of your emails from people who need something.
Yeah.
And that's its own thing, because you had to reply. Oh my gosh, if you don't reply in 5 minutes, you're a bad employee, whatever it is.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's very different from consumer, where all of the senders are essentially businesses or organizations or
Yeah.
institutions that either they're just telling you about something, or they're sort of offering an opportunity. And every now and then there's a person who actually needs you to do something.
Do something new.
And so the tools for enterprise are all focused around this, like multi-people all collaborating on, big projects or even small projects. Whereas for consumer, it's about helping that individual really stay on top of those things. And so you can imagine in enterprise, the senders are essentially just people writing emails. In consumer, it's a lot of folks listening to this podcast, which are marketeers and senders who have a huge part to play in making that experience great, so that this platform remains vibrant and modern and, continues to be this awesome open platform that we can all improve together.
I particularly appreciate the last part of that statement, because we're the three of us sitting here talking are sort of in the club of heavily involved in this particular media.
Yeah.
When you tell your friend on the street, email, there's a bit of a, oh yeah, that's old. It's been around. It's going to go away. I was always teeing up the argument. No, it's actually not.
Right.
Do you get less mail than you did last year, Fred? No, I didn't think so. Okay. So, I won that argument, but it does seem like it's time we kind of evolved the channel, doesn't it? Isn't it?
Oh, yeah, completely. I mean, it's evolving in slow ways all the time. And like you said, it's growing all the time. It's like 3% year over year, very consistently. Number of users, using email grows globally.
Yeah.
But yes, it's got to stay with the times. You mentioned people, especially marketers, see a high return on investment and they're very happy and comfortable with that. We can never take it for granted that this platform needs investment and needs us to continue improving it. And on the sender side, we've been working really hard with senders to make sure they know, like, what is a great email and how do they send, how do they get some, even some feedback about what's working, what isn't working.
Mm-hmm.
And so, yeah, we all have to work together to keep improving.
Well, I know, Marcel, I know you've got a lot of involvement with the invisible back end that makes all the magic happen as well, don't you?
Yeah, that's why, I like to actually call it like a revolution, even though it's a very, slow one, but it is one. And with any revolution, really, if you look at history, right, they all have not been sudden. There has been, stuff happen like years before, and then there's this one tipping point. And I think we see that as well with email and some of the tools we're working on, be it BIMI, be it AM, or, what Apple's doing out there. I think they're all contributing to that and are leading up to this one moment where the email marketeers, the sending community realizes holy, we need to do something, right? And because it just makes a ton of sense, right? It is better experience. We get more conversions. We can actually keep the users within the funnel, reduce friction, and get them to do and click on things we actually want them to click on. And everybody, like I said before, will be happier.
Yeah. Yeah. It, it intrigues me that doing this well is mostly doing this. By this, I mean email as a marketing channel. Doing this well is to a great extent a question of just doing the right thing in the first place. Talk to them like human beings, respect their time, don't pound them to death, don't treat them like idiots, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. It's like, whoa, that's a remarkable experience. Thanks for being decent.
Right.
You get my business. Really, you do.
It all goes back to the golden rule, right?
Yeah, to a considerable extent, but we're at the end of, we sit here in our inbox at the end of a pipeline with, thousands of people potentially on the other end, that, want our attention, and I can't subdivide it that much. Nobody can.
Right.
And it's a constant challenge. There are inboxes, no, not the plural. There are inboxes that I really delete based on who it came from before I read.
Right. Yeah.
Horrible, but what are you going to do?
Yeah. You have to prioritize your time and make those snap decisions. So,
yeah.
If a sender has a reputation with you as a consumer about not sending something valuable, that's going to be a mark against them the next time they're in your inbox,
and hard to recover from.
Mm-hmm.
See, but conversely, I don't know why it's popping to mind, but I started playing golf. There, I said it. And I bought clubs from a little company, a little direct to consumer company out in Vermont, Bomb Tech Golf. Man, their email game is fantastic.
Nice.
They're really good at it. Like the follow-up linkage between what I was looking at on their website and how they responded in email. Like, you guys are going to keep growing if you keep this up, because none of the big companies in that space are anywhere near as dialed in to feeling so one-to-one. And that the word feeling was very intentional there. Like,
right.
Impressive to see. And it wasn't a question of them having a bigger email marketing budget. It was, partially culture, partially execution, partially someone taking the time to think through that message sequence and write it well and things like that.
As I always say, like, I often get asked, like, at the end of, some sessions, webinars or conferences, it's like, what is the one thing you want everybody to take away from this? And I say, it's really simple, right? Care about your users. They're all human beings, right? Treat them like you want to be treated, right? Just be human about it.
Yeah.
Be mindful of their time. Be mindful of what your message actually is. Is it something you would want to get from yourself, from that company? If yes, maybe send it, right? If you don't see a reason, don't send it, right? And your users, they will be happier if you actually follow that advice. Everybody will be.
Yeah, I think so. I think, Marcel, you'd mentioned AI, so we'll go there a little bit. What sort of speculative thoughts do both of you have about technologies like AI and what influence they're going to have on this space called email?
Yeah, it's interesting because AI has been improving and been part of the email experience for decades already.
Yeah.
We've had filtering spam as a product, right? For since almost email was invented. And so it's been a part of email, but I think what you're seeing is a step function rise in user expectation around how they can interact with information, especially large amounts of information.
Yeah.
And so, what we've observed with, Chat GPT is people just expecting to be able to ask questions that have a very conversational, human type of answer, and expecting not to have to take time to craft searches with, from this and date this, but just saying, here's generally what I'm looking for. And so as we look at that rise in user expectations, hey, we've got a lot of headway in the spam filtering, and also in some of the tabs we have where we tried to make sense of your email, your emails for you by category. But I think going forward, you're going to see a lot more from us and even from the industry as to summarizing, to even having how to craft a search or what information might be relevant to you at a time when you're not even opening your inbox. So using email as a personal database, from which you can then draw either new actions you maybe didn't even know you should take, and also helping assist you in actions that you need to take right now.
Because the lady standing in line
Yeah.
should be able to say, where's my boarding pass?
Right. Right.
And all the contextual information required to deliver on that, it's there.
Yep.
Or even better, don't even ask. Just open your Yahoo Mail app. Right?
It's just boom, right there, right? Yeah. One of the airline apps I was using the other day did that on the app. When I opened it, there was the boarding pass.
Yeah.
Guys, right? Time and geography, duh. That was the right thing to do. And I was like, hallelujah.
Yeah.
That was the right thing to do.
And if senders are already sending structured data, that makes it all the easier.
All the easier. Yeah.
And then as these large language models take hold, even the unstructured data will be more accessible. But I still think, especially since email is updating and changing, every second, essentially, sending that structured data is still a real leg up in terms of user experience.
And it'll take delivery from the content side first, right? Marketers have to get on board that train to get a critical mass of it so that companies like you can provide the hooks and tools to manage it so that the customer experience is better and it's a virtuous cycle. There'll be some guys still sending really bad boilerplate copy, and we'll all have to visit him and beat him up and get him on board eventually. Well, Marcel, what thoughts do you have about the as you said, Josh, the current step function and awareness of AI?
Same. I mean, we are really in violent agreement there, right? Because it's a next step in what I call the revolution, right? And I think it's a big step, really getting us to that experience we really all have in mind, where the email app just does things for you, almost like a concierge. Right?
Or assistant.
Not an assistant, but like an assistant. You have to ask questions like, "Can you do X, Y, and Z?"
Oh yeah,
concierge, right? He knows what you need. He might
anticipate.
just hand you that boarding pass or whatever you need and tell you, "Here you go." And I think the AI really helps with that, both on the sending side. Obviously, there's a lot of talk there, a lot of startups as well. But on the receiving side, really make sense of that as well. And as Josh said, like that structured data, right? It's not mutually exclusive. Like they're all stepping stones or building blocks and pieces of the puzzle to actually get us there.
Right. Yeah. I'm really glad that there's more structure coming to messages, because I think it enables us to do things that are frankly just a heck of a hard lift with nothing but ASCII, nothing but message bodies like they've looked for 20 years. And I hope we see more of that. And that's one of those things it's invisible, right? Consumer's not going to see it. Well done, ESP or marketing platform. The marketer may not necessarily really see it.
Right.
But if it's there, boy, does it matter a bunch. That's a good lateral, because last big restructure I can think of the email message was, let's add a body part for AMP. And I know Yahoo was one of the important, was and is one of the important supporters of AMP for email. How's it going?
Yeah, Marcel.
Yeah. So like I said, every revolution, right, starts slowly. And it's certainly, if you look at DKIM, if you look at DMARC, right, DKIM is over 10 years old, and we still have a long way to go for senders to adopt it. And we still have to explain what the benefit is.
Yeah.
DMARC is the same thing. And AMP and BIMI, which are relatively new technologies, right? AMP for email. We started in 2017, really in earnest. And the first beta was released in 2018. That is not that long ago in email terms. But you can see a slight hockey stick, and in some markets, it's doing better than in others. India, for example, it's doing very well because, our competition, unfortunately, is a little better there. But we see actually a lot of ESPs now adopting it and providing these what they call like zero code tools.
Yeah.
That's what it makes it really accessible for
Yeah.
brands like your average marketeer, right? They can just drag and drop things into place. They don't have to worry about how does it actually work. Is it AMP? Is it not AMP? Is it schema? Is it not schema?
Yeah.
Right? They just know, hey, I want to send this form. I know I want to collect data from these users. I want to make sure that they can engage with me right within the email, reduce friction. That's what they care about. How this stuff works doesn't matter at the end of the day.
Yeah, they often don't know.
We actually see some, increased adoption, day by day.
I think the big rock in the road for that particular one looks like a piece of fruit. I think Apple is a big impediment to wider spread adoption of AMP, and I don't think they'll ever support it, to be blunt.
Want to take a bet?
Yeah, seriously, I think the whole, at least a beer, okay? I think the whole pivot towards privacy as a brand tentpole that Apple has made, they would be in a very, very difficult position to support AMP because it goes way backwards from the whole move with MPP.
Obviously I can't comment about what Apple is doing or not doing because I simply don't know. But when you look at some other technology like Bimmy, for example, right? I think Apple is really focusing on two aspects we are also focusing on. One is the user experience, make that as great as possible, as we have been discussing. And the other one is really why building that great user experience, make sure we protect our users, data, respect their privacy, and keep them secure. So Apple MPP is, doing exactly that. We're doing similar things.
Yes.
I would not say they're mutually exclusive. And you see with Apple now also adopting Bimmy, right? Which is in the vein of make it a great user experience. I think there is an opportunity for us, as the industry to see more growth and adoption there going forward.
Yeah, I'd sure like to see it. I'm a fairly hardcore Apple user. There's lots of fruits around here, but man, their email client's been stuck for a long time. They haven't done any of the kind of innovation you guys have, in my humble opinion.
Well, thank you.
Well,
I think Marcel mentioned Bimmy, and for those listeners who don't know, that's essentially seeing the logo or the image of the sender when you open a mail, which seems like a really straightforward thing. But one of the blessings and curses of having this open standard is there's a ton of potential innovation and everyone can compete for the best experience. But then also to have things adopted at scale across the whole platform takes some time. And so we kind of had our own version of Bimmy that wasn't open, and we were seeing really enhanced just engagement and open rates because people at a glance could see who is this email from without even having to, read right away. And then rolling that into a standard, being a part of pushing Bimmy, we were super excited to see, that being taken on by other big players as well. So there is always an opportunity once you prove that something is useful for consumers and for senders to have it take hold for sure.
And as a visual communications guy, I've been delighted to see Bimmy's traction. Like, yay! Name me a company without a logo. Pretty hard to do that, right?
Me too, man. I mean, I grew up. I think they identified me early as a kid as a visual learner.
Yeah.
And so being in email, I was always like, well, how can we make this more visual? Like it's all text. It's like, what else?
It's all,
And like if you look in the Yahoo Mail app, for example, or even on desktop, like you can go to our attachments view, which is really easy to use. Now it's like just all of your attachments from your email. So it's like filtering your whole inbox by just what are the attachments. But then for me as a visual person, and Matthew, you mentioned you are too, going to that photos tab of attachments. Now you just have this like, display of a whole photo wall of everything in your email.
Nice.
And like my mom's a photographer. She's always sending me stuff. So for me, it's like all these great photos. For others, it might be, more like the thing you send to your insurance claim adjuster, whatever it is, but it's just a nice visual way to browse email. So
you're a photographer too, aren't you, Josh?
I dabble, not professionally.
You're a photographer. Marcel's an actor. I love this. There's you get lumped in the tech in the category of being a techie of some sort, and the assumption that there's no other creative involvement. Kind of have to
Right.
battle on one, right?
Oh, for sure.
Um, I'd asked about this and I didn't actually hook back to it. In brief, because I know we'll need to wrap up shortly.
Mhm.
How did you go about tackling the big redesign process for the
Yeah.
client that you launched? That's a monster undertaking.
Yeah, it is a monster. As I mentioned, Yahoo Mail was celebrating a quarter century. And we have an awesome mix of people who have been in the industry or been, in the company and for nearly that amount of time. So you have a lot of institutional knowledge. Yahoo's always been really focused on consumer research and really being consumer first and understanding users. So we had a really nice history of learnings from watching people use email alongside them and understanding what they're trying to solve for.
Mhm.
And then what we did is we approached it both as an experience as well as a platform update.
Okay.
And so we rolled all that up into what's, not just what can we respond to from the past years, but what's happening in the moment. And like I said, half of all the emails open or shopping related, and what are the pain points around that? But then also, a quarter of all US adults have a Yahoo account. And so Yahoo email accounts. And so, we have this a responsibility to also just improve their experience and not just, do something crazy and wild for the heck of it. So it was really grounded in understanding users, but then also where we wanted to go as a company, which is staying consumer focused, consumer first. And so Marcel, myself, and the whole team worked together to improve the platform as well as that user experience. And so ultimately, we aligned around helping people save time, so just
Mhm.
getting more things done, as well as saving money, since so much of that activity is around shopping and retail. And that's where all those tools came from as a result.
Nice. And I think in the write-up I saw on the client, it said that, and you said earlier that some of the design decisions that were already in place were essentially validated when you looked at them again, right?
Right. Yeah. So a few years ago, we saw that the shape of phones was getting, or the size of phones was getting larger and larger, and we wanted everything to be available within thumb distance.
Okay.
And so we put some foundational tabs at the bottom. But what we saw is just human nature. People are always looking at the top first. They're
Yeah.
reading top down. And so we kind of, we said, well, high priority information should be available at the top.
Oh,
And then
interesting.
things where you want to shift intent or like what you're really trying to accomplish should be at the bottom.
Mhm.
And so it seems simple. It's like, okay, you're moving some buttons around. But at the end of the day, you know, millions of people are using this every day,
Yeah.
opening up multiple times per day. So these relatively small shifts make a big difference.
200
Yeah.
million people using
Right.
the flight. Yeah.
Right. And
Wow.
and then ultimately, where do they land when they go? And so just looking at all those user journeys and making sure they're not only efficient but also delightful. That's where the magic comes in. And when you can merge, the promise of an open standard with years of foundational work and developing a platform with just like the best in class designers, just totally killing it on the product side. That's where that highest ratings ever really paid off.
It's kind of stunning when you think about the caliber of the tool set that you're handing a customer for free.
Right.
Oh, whoa. You realize how much time, effort, work, care, infrastructure, etc. went into this thing that you're just like, okay, sure, I'll open an account with that. Of
Right.
course, probably, they're going to run their life on it. They'll appreciate it.
Right. Exactly.
over time. But yeah, that sort of digital portable memory function that email serves more than anything, I think. Like, yeah, it's all in there somewhere. Receipts, the login. That's where I'll get a password reset if I have to do this. Like,
Right.
wow, that's an important chunk of real estate. Early days of mobile, what was the killer app? Email, right?
That's right. Yeah. And it's evolved in how people use it, but it's important. It's just changed in how it's important to people every day.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it looks like market response to all of your efforts is positive. I had looked up Litmus email client market share. I was like, whoa, nice jump, guys. So
Oh yeah.
yeah, congrats. That's good. Here's my parting question, two parting questions. One, what's next for Yahoo? So answer that one first.
Okay. So we are investing and playing offense for growth. Yahoo as a company, as well as Yahoo Mail, as the product that people most closely associate with Yahoo, the brand.
Yeah.
And so what you're going to see from us is a rolling thunder of innovations on behalf of the consumer, and building out more around what we call helping people manage the business of life.
Mm-hmm.
And so today it's the inbox. We're looking at other what we call mail adjacent utilities that can build from that email experience.
Yeah.
And ultimately, helping people stay, like I said, wake up in the morning, you feel confident, what the heck you're supposed to be doing, and things are going to go the right way. And then you're in control of what happens next.
Yeah, that's a promising direction. It's not like we're not going to keep managing our lives, in the palm of our hands, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Marcel, any other thoughts on the tech side?
No, it's basically just supporting that, right? To actually do that, I think there's a lot of heavy lifting which needs to be done to get there, right? Because you said it, you open up this account and it's all free and it just does what you want it to be doing, but there's a lot of things in the background making this happen.
Yeah.
And to fulfill this vision, right, we just have to keep investing in that platform, in standards on our side, but also on the sender side.
Yeah. Yeah. So my next question, my last one was going to be what are some of the things that you think will be happening in the future of email? Call it a 3 to 5 year horizon.
Yeah. So it's certainly on the consumer side, the consumer expectations will continue to rise. And so email staying as it is today is not an option. So we really have to, as an industry, not only maintain, where we are with users today, but greatly exceed, because there's a lot of competition for attention and for being useful.
Mhm.
And there's a lot of walled gardens out there that are, one company owns the whole system. And that's honestly not an internet that I look forward to seeing. And so as an industry, when we work together to make an open standard better, that's going to be the key. And so optimistically, and I think realistically, over the next 3 to 5 years, people are going to not necessarily love opening their inbox, but they're going to love what email is doing for them, because it really powers their day even more than before.
Nice. Marcel?
Yeah, I mean, I often say the email of the future doesn't look like email, and you see some of these experiences we already built and will be building. They're really leading up to that, right? We have these different views already. Talked about the travel view, shopping experience.
Mm-hmm.
None of these look like your traditional email message list, and that is good. But we need to do more on the experience side, but also on the platform and technology side. You said it, I think, very early on. Email kind of is a blessing and a curse, both from a sending and receiving perspective. There's also a lot of abuse happening out there,
Yeah.
and tackling that, I think, is also paramount, right? To keep our users happy, not just help them find what they need, but also keep all the crap out and keep them secure.
Yeah.
While we help them find what they actually need.
Yeah. You imagine the bliss of the consumer who's getting only stuff that they actually asked for, want for, signed up for.
Yeah. And your senders who have the user's best interest at heart,
Yeah.
they can clearly identify themselves in really well-documented ways. And our site for that is senders.yahooinc.com. And Marcel and team have done an awesome job clearly communicating. If you're a sender and you're sending great stuff, here's how, help us help you.
Help us help.
And so all the tools are there.
Nice. Well, gents, this has been an absolute kick. I'm so delighted to have had a chance to open 2023 with your time.
Likewise. Thanks for the time. Really appreciate it.